Hello and welcome to another video with me, Joe from J.H.Leather. In this tutorial, we'll be learning how to make a plain leather dog collar. Okay, so for this tutorial, you will need a buckle, a D-ring and a strip of leather and some looping to match. So your leather will need to be the same size as your buckle and D-ring. Once you've got those bits together, we can now start making our dog collar. So as always, we will find the best end of the leather, and once we've found that, we will then cut an egg point. Once you cut your egg point, we're now going to mark out the holes. Like always, our first hole is 2 inches in from the end of our leather, and then mine's quite a small dog collar, so my holes I'm doing are 1/2 inch apart. You can do whatever sort of size you like on your own dog collar. So once you know what size you're going to do, you want to mark 5 holes. Now once we've done marking our holes, we're going to mark the overall length of our dog collar. So to do that, you're going to put your ruler on your centre hole and then mark the overall length from there. So mine's 11.5 inches, so I've done my 11.5 inch mark, and then with a set square we're just going to straighten that up and we can then mark for our turn. So on plain dog collars I like to do a 3 inch turn. This is sort of just personal preference. So we're going to mark 3 inches from the centre that we've just marked and just mark across the leather with our set square. We're then going to cut this off and we'll then cut another egg point on this end of our strip of leather. So once you've got your dog collar cut out, we're going to edge it with our number 1 edge tool. So you want to edge the whole of the grain with our edge tool. Okay, once we've done that, we're going to get our ruler and just mark our turn. So on your turn end, as we've got a 3 inch turn, you want to mark 6 inches in from the end. Just put a little dot in the centre of the strap, and then we're going to start edging just a bit further down from this. It's an egg point on the turn, so they are round, so you just take into account the roundiness of that turn. And we'll just edge this part of our flesh side. Now once we've done that, we're going to cut a couple of wedges. You want a little bit of scrap leather the same width as your dog collar. These will sit either side of our D-ring when we come to stitching. So you just want to get your head knife and just skive the end of this little bit. You want 2 little wedges, and you just want them skived to nothing. As you can see here, they're skived down to nothing. You just want 2 of these, so once you're happy with the first one, cut it off and then make your second one. Okay, so we're now going to stain our collar and our little wedges that we have just made. Okay, so once we've done staining and polishing, we're going to crease all the way around the grain side of our dog collar. Okay, so we're now going to mark out for our crew hole. So you want to get a crew hole that's a suitable size for the buckle that you're using. If you want to do a sample piece before, that's fine, just to make sure you get the right one. Once you know which one you're going to use, you want to get your dividers and just mark either side of our centre point so you can get a nice little guideline for when we punch with our crew. If you need to adjust it, make it bigger or smaller, that's not a problem. Okay, so once you're happy with that, you want to get a little punch block to put underneath, and then we're going to punch our crew all the way through the leather. Once you've punched your crew, you want to get your number 6 edge tool and just take out the back of that crew hole. This just allows for the buckle tongue to sit nicely once we've made the turn. Okay, so now you want to just make your turn. You may need to wet this just to make sure the end doesn't crack. And once you've done that, you want to put your buckle in. We're going to mark for stitch marking now. So you want to hold this turn as tight as you can. And you want to get your stitching as close as you can to the buckle. And then just mark with your thumbnail sort of as close as you can get. Once you've marked that, use your set square and just even up the dots on both sides of the leather. And then using your dividers, draw around between these points. Okay, so once you've done that, you want to stitch mark. You stitch mark all the way around your turn, and remembering to angle your stitch mark when you get to the actually round part of our turn. It just makes it easier to go around these bits if the stitch mark is angled. Okay, so once you've done that, we are now going to skive the turn. So you want to take this down to half thickness. And once we've done that, we can now get some looping ready. So you want to mark out for your looping. So just wrap this around your piece of leather and mark with your nail where it meets on the other side, and cut this off with your head knife. So we're now going to tack together our dog collar. So we want to put your buckle in first, and then we're going to get some tacks and tack in our loop. So you want the loop to be caught in the first stitch. So you want to tack it in where it will get caught in that stitch. To mark out for how far in you want to put your loop, just measure it up sort of in the centre of your crew hole and just draw a little line with your nail. This will let you know when you're tacking it in how far in that part needs to stick out to. So once you've done that, you can now tack in your loop. So once you've done that, you want to tack in our wedges. So the first one will go in with the sort of skived end towards the buckle. Tack that one in, then put in your D-ring and tack the other wedge in nicely and tightly behind it. And the reason we put these wedges in is because it just supports this area of the dog collar, sort of where the D is, because the D-ring will push out the leather. This sort of fills the voids that are left by that. So once you've put those two in, you just want to put in another tack just to secure the end. And you should have something that looks a little like this. Okay, so as you can see here, what the wedges are doing, they're just filling the void that would be created by that D-ring there, and they also just support this area of the dog collar. So once we've got to this stage, the next stage is to stitch our dog collar. So we'll be double hand stitching this dog collar like normal. So to start with, we'll be awling our first 2 holes, and going in through the second hole, we awled back to the first hole closer to the buckle for our back stitch. So you want to level up your threads here, and then we will go 1 stitch sort of over the edge. This will just create it nice and tight around that buckle. So pop your threads over the edges and just swap sides and go back through that first hole. And pull it nice and tight. This will just close that turn nice and tight on the buckle there. Once you've done that, you can continue stitching your dog collar as normal. Right, so when we're stitching dog collars, you want to stitch right up to the very edge of your dog D, like I am here. And then what we're going to do is we're going to miss one stitch mark out. So there'll be one long stitch over the D ring. So once we've done that, we will then do a back stitch. And then we will continue forwards with the rest of our dog collar. So it just sort of reinforces this area of the dog collar. Okay, so once you've done that, you've done your 3 stitches, just continue stitching the rest of your dog collar as normal. Right, so when we get close to the dog D on the second side of our stitching, you just want to mark out sort of how many stitches you've done on the first side, just to get it level. So I've done 5 stitch marks to my long stitch on the original side. So we're going to mark that out onto our other side, just counting it out with our awl, and just mark where that 5th stitch is, and then the one you miss out, and you sort of the stitch after that where you start your long stitch. Once you've done that, you can continue stitching. Remember to do your 3 stitches over that dog D, just to it reinforces the area and it matches it on the other side. Okay, so you can now continue stitching the rest of your dog collar as normal. Now once we get close to our loop, you just want to pre-awl those holes just so it's easier to awl through once your loop is in. And then put your loop into your dog collar. You want to make sure you don't awl through that loop, so just be careful when you're stitching this part. And then finishing stitching your collar, remembering to do 1 stitch over the edge and 2.5 stitches back. Okay, so when you're finished stitching, you can just cut off the ends of your threads, and hopefully you will have something that looks a little bit like this one. Okay, so hopefully your dog collar's looking a little bit like this with our long stitches over the D ring. As you can see, the wedges are doing what they should do and filling that void, and also reducing the lump that could occur on the back of that turn that will be on the dog's neck. It just sort of levels it all out and reinforces this area. Okay, so we're now ready to do our finishing touches. So you want to put your loop stick into your loop. Now you want to push this in as far as you need to, if that makes sense. You don't want to push it too far, else your leather will sort of run really loose through it, and if it's too tight you'll never get the end of your dog collar in. So once you're happy with that, you want to then restain all of your dog collar, remembering to bone or polish with a bit of wood the areas around the turn with our fillers in. This just sort of makes it look nice and all level. Okay, so once you're done polishing, you want to get your loop nice and square, so just polish either side of it with a bone, and then using a little bit of metal and your tack hammer, you just want to tack the sides of your loop. This will make it nice and square, so if you tack the sides and the top, you'll get a nice square loop. And once you've done that, we're then going to recrease the whole of the dog collar, including the loop. So once we've done creasing, the last thing to do is to punch our holes. So with your dividers, level up the holes that we marked earlier, and then using your hole punch, punch through for the 5 holes. Okay, that's it for this tutorial. Hopefully your dog collar looks something like this one here. If you do need any help at all, please leave a comment in the comment section below and I'll try and get back to you with some information on that. If you like the video, please click the thumbs up button and subscribe for more videos and tutorials. For more of our videos, please click on the links on the right hand side of your page. Thank you, bye!